Everyone, this is Director of Athletic Communications Michael Wozniak here, and today I'll be taking you step by step on how I made this Leah Ranowska graphic. So thank you, Leah, for letting me use your Media Day photos and cutting you out for this graphic. Now, to start off, as I'm in Photoshop here, I'm going to go to File and click New Project. And I'm going to work with 1080 times 1350, and what that is it's the biggest margin that Instagram uses. And now we're going to bring in the original background picture that we're going to use of Leah. So we're going to drop her in and resize her, and then we're going to go to the Object Selection tool, and then we're going to click Select Subject, which does a really good job of cutting out photos, especially with plain backgrounds like the Media Day photos. And now we're going to click on the Hair Refine tool, which is the second one down, and I'm going to do a quick lap around her hair just to make sure that we that the hair comes out nice and solid. And then after that, we're going to go to the bottom and we're going to click on the rectangle with the circle inside. That's the Layer Mask tool. And once we do that, we can officially cut her out from the background. And here, I'll show you an example. So if I go back in with the paintbrush tool on the black end of the layer mask, it will erase. And if I go in on the white with the white brush on that, it will recolor, as you'll see me do here with some of the hair that's left over that need to be repainted. And now that that's all done, we're going to now make her pop more. We're going to go to Filter and Camera Raw Filter. I recommend this a lot as it helps make your subject pop more. The first thing I'm going to do is press Auto, and then I'm going to just play with the settings, add some texture and clarity, and I'm going to add more than normal because we're going to be making her black and white in this, and then we're going to add some more vibrance. So there's a little sample of what it looks like with and without it. And now we're going to go to the Adjustments tab, and I'm going to click on a black and white layer. And with that, I'm going to use the Layer Mask, and I'm going to select Color Range in the Layer Mask section, and I'm going to make sure that we're on blue, and I'm going to invert it so that way the blue pops out. And if you see, I do it a couple times just to double check to make sure that the blue is all the way out on the graphic. So now that that is all set, I'm going to go back into the Layer Mask section. I'm going to go to this Gradient tool, and I'm going to hold Shift and bring it up a little bit so that way we don't have that hard edge on the bottom because we won't be needing that in the graphic. And now we're going to duplicate Leah and add some more texture with the high pass filter, and I like to keep it at around 3.7 pixels. And again, this just adds some more texture to our picture. And now I'm going to right click and create a clipping mask, and what that does is, again, it keeps all the features and it keeps the black and white filter with our image. And now that we're all set on that, we're going to work on the background. The first thing I'm going to do is camera raw the background, so that way it's not just a plain white background. I'm going to drop the exposure down a little bit and then go down to effects and add some grain, which again just adds that texture and keeps it away from just a plain white background. The next thing we're going to do is add those two gradients in the top right hand corner. So I'm going to go to my gradient tool, keep it in the charger blue, and then hold Shift and drag it across and resize it a little bit to make sure it's at the right properties that I want it at. And now once I have it to where I want it, I'm going to duplicate it, so Control J or Command J, and I am going to keep the top one at 100% and keep the bottom one at around 60%. And again, that's just to make sure it doesn't get fully solid, but it adds another layer of the blue. The next thing I'm going to do is go in and get our picture of Colgate Hall with the mountains in the background, and we're going to drag that into our background. And we're going to create a clipping mask again, and what this does is it keeps it inside that top gradient, and I'm going to change the viewing of it to luminosity, and I'm going to drop it down to 12%. If you can see, it's not popping as strong, so what we're going to do after we move it to where we want to is go back into Camera Raw filter, and this time we're not really going to be looking at necessarily making it the best quality, but we're going to be working for the most texture and clarity we can, so that way those edges become darker. So after that, our background pops a little bit more, and now we can work on the blue shading on our face. So to start, I'm going to create a new texture, a new layer, and then I'm going to go to my paintbrush tool and click on the general soft round edges brush, and I'm going to change the flow to about 10% and then just slowly paint on the right side of her face. And I'm going to change this first one to overlay, so that way it's keeping the texture of the subject, and then just go one more time around the edges. And now what I'm also going to do is I'm going to add a second layer and put this on the bottom. And with that, I'm going to change the opacity to 58% and keep it at normal. And what that'll do is it'll bring more of the shades of color into the image and make it blend in a little bit more. And now what I can do is if I add the layer mask, which I did, I can now go on the outside and smoothen the edges, so that way we get that nice effect with the blue coming from the blue gradient. Now I'm going to lock these two layers and put them all together in a group, and I'm going to name it Leah Cutout, and I'm going to duplicate the layer, so now we can work on the bottom section with the court as I'm showing there. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to delete all the layers we no longer need. So we're going to delete the two top gradients, and we're also going to delete the high pass layer of Leah. And now we're going to change the bottom layer to 52% opacity, and we're going to go to layer styles, and we're going to click on that inner glow with the charger blue, so that way we get that nice effect of the blue popping out of the court. And now we're going to drag the court onto the graphic. Now it's giving this weird effect, and that's just because the black and white filter is still on, so we're going to hide that for the time being, and we're going to create the clipping mask with Leah. We're now just going to resize it the way that we want, and then we're going to create one of those layer masks again, and I'm going to use the gradient tool this time with the black color, so that way I can take it down. And what this will do is it'll hide most of the court, so that way we get that nice blending effect with Leah. And now we're once again going to go into the black and white filter, and we're going to add the layer mask with the color range and keep it as well with the blues, so that way we can get some blue popping from the Hogan Sports Center and the Charger logo at the center of the court. And once that's done, our background is ready. We'll go back to the top layer of Leah, and we're going to add a layer mask on the full group. Then we're going to grab that gradient tool, and we're going to slowly fade that back up some more, so that way the court is coming in from the bottom in our bottom cutout. And now that we have that finished, we are going to grab the second cutout of Leah and drag her and drop her back on. We're going to move her up on the layers side, and we're going to cut her out before we resize her, and that's just to keep the best image quality we can. So again, I'm going to go to the object selection tool and select subject. and we're going to go to select a mask, and as you see, it didn't cut out the basketball this time all the way. So what I'm going to do is go to this top layer, or the top paintbrush, and I'm going to slowly select the colors, and it does a really good job of getting that basketball out for us. Now, if you can notice a little bit on the shoes, you're getting some of that green blending into where the shoe would be. So what I'm going to do is add my layer mask, and now I'm going to zoom in with that and stay on the layer mask and click on the paintbrush tool. And now if I go to the white color, I can now paint back in whatever I need to on the shoe. So for instance, on this back edge, I'm going to go back in there and refine it a little bit. I always want to paint more at first so that way I can take it away, so I can fully find out where the edge is, and a little bit there on the sock as well. And now I switch the colors in the layer mask section over to the black paintbrush, and now I'll be able to erase and get the shoe out perfect. I'm going to do the same thing around the laces, and then a little bit in between the fingers there, and back on the other shoe as well. I'm going to edit that down a little bit so it can look more like a shoe's on the ground. And now after your cutout looks good, I'm going to go to the object or the move tool, and I'm going to scale her down to where she'll fit. And I'll slide her over on top of the court. And now once I'm there, I can go back in and filter and add that camera raw filter again. So again, I'm trying to do the same type of things where I'm going to press auto and then boost my settings and then add more texture and clarity than I normally would, because I know that she'll eventually be black and white. So there you can see the quick difference between the two. And I'm also going to duplicate it and add that high pass layer and make sure I clip it as well. And then I'm going to add the black and white layer on top, and then color range it to blue like we've done a couple of times. So that way we have that color again coming out and keeping everything else black and white. The next thing I'm going to work on is the shadows under her feet. For that, I'm going to create a new layer, go to my soft brush again, and change the settings with the flow down to 10%. And now I'm just going to go around the shoe and under the shoe about 3 to 4 times with that soft brush to create that nice shadow effect. And now that that is complete, I'm going to work on the text. So for this graphic, I used the Rockstar font. So I'm going to type in the I'm back, and now I'm going to resize it to about 36. In the character properties setting, I'm going to reshape my spacing to about 30 or 3249. And now with that, I'm going to change the color of it. So I'm going to go in here and select the color for Colby-Sawyer blue, which is 0092 CD. And now once that's complete and I'm happy with it, I'm going to add some more texture to this font. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to go to Filter and Convert for Smart Filters. So what that will do is it will make me unable to edit the text, but what it will let me do is add that texture and clarity to it to help it pop a little bit more. So I'm going to now go to Filter and Camera Raw Filter, and now I'm going to add some more texture, clarity, some dehaze, and then I'm going to go down to Effects and add some more vignetting. So there you see that white coming from the left-hand side. And now I'm also going to duplicate it and add a little motion blur on top. So for that, I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, and then Motion Blur. and I like to keep it at 12 because it's not too light and not too strong. And that's looking good. So the next thing we can do is add our charger head. And now we're going to scale it down and bring it to the left corner as it has normally sat in most of the graphics that we've used this year. And then finally we will go into our text tool yet again and create a new layer. And this time we're going to put in the Colby-Sawyer women's basketball in our black color, which is 272425. Now I'm going to resize it to about 8 and bring it to the bottom right corner. And now I think the final thing we have to do is add the signature. So we're going to go in and grab our signature font. And now with that, I'll add her number and bring that into on the bottom side. And we are all done the graphic. If you want to go ahead and try it, I will also add the PSD. But thanks for watching.